and welcome everyone to the first edition of Movie Reviews. And here to join us today, we have Alfonso. Today's first episode, we have a very special guest who's going to join us each week. And why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Alfonso. Hi, Danny. I'm excited to be here.
And on today's first episode, we're going to be reviewing
The Wolf of Wall Street. Oh my God.
It's the Forbes article. They all want to work for you now.
We're going to be reviewing and expressing like how do we feel about the movie, and we're also going to be talking about like technical aspects, the script, the sound, the camera movements, just like a little bit of everything. And then after that, we're going to give each other like our rating of that movie. We want to give you a little introduction about like what this movie is about for those of you who haven't seen it. So spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about the movie. So if you haven't seen it, stop the video now and go watch it. But if you have, then stay until the end of this video. Okay, so Alfonso, why don't we start by telling like a synopsis about this movie?
Sure. The Wolf of Wall Street tells the story of Jordan Belfort, who was a very ambitious young man, and his rise on Wall Street as a stockbroker until, because of corruption and fraud, he gets involved with the FBI, which leads to his downfall.
And this is a story based on true facts, right? Like this actually happened.
Yes, it actually happened.
How crazy is that? Okay. Yeah, like Alfonso said, this movie is about Jordan Belfort. And in 2007, he wrote The Wolf of Wall Street. That is a book. And then in 2013, Martin Scorsese made a movie out of based on the book. Why don't we first start by talking about the cast? Like the cast that Martin used for this movie. Like, what do you think about Leonardo as Jordan?
I think it is an amazing film. I think the cast did an incredible job. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is at the top of his game. And it's probably one of his best acting roles ever. Well,
Yeah.
and not only him, I also think it's also Jonah Hill's best acting.
Yeah.
And it was the breakthrough performance for Margot Robbie. So overall, I think the cast did an incredible job. What did you think?
I also was like really amazed with Leonardo DiCaprio's acting. Like, especially like I have to say it when like he's high and that scene, like he's like talking on the phone and he falls. I was like, what is happening? You know, like that was so good. And like when he was giving like all these speeches at the offices, I was like so amazed by like his expression and everything.
That you finally found a broker on Wall Street that you can trust and who can consistently make you money. Sound fair enough?
And also like Jonah Hill surprised me a lot with his acting, because I've always seen him like on like, you know, he's a funny guy and like these fun characters, you know, like comedy. And like he brought that element because like you see him and you're like, you know, it's this guy and like the white teeth and everything. That was funny. So
yeah, just looking at Jonah Hill makes me laugh. His image is so funny.
Yeah.
And right, that sequence with the drugs, with the Quaaludes, it's amazing. It made me think of The Revenant, like the way Leonardo DiCaprio is like crawling on the floor trying to reach his Ferrari, and that made me think like, oh, that's just like in The Revenant. Maybe Iñárritu watched The Wolf of Wall Street and he wanted to cast DiCaprio.
Yeah. So we said that we talked that about this movie was set in between like the 80s and the 90s. So what do you think about the production design?
I think it was amazing. Bob Shaw, the production designer, did an incredible job really transporting us to that era. And not only that, but he made us look at all the luxuries that Jordan Belfort could afford, and it was great. Like the cars, the clothes, the giant mansions. It was great. What did you think?
I also thought the same. Like I even like wrote on my notes, like said like the offices, the part, like the huge houses where they have the parties.
Yeah, and I'm not sure which shots, but I know that some of the production design was achieved in special effects, like using green screen, and some of the buildings were actually built in post-production with special effects.
Yeah.
And that was also great. It really added to the environment and to the atmosphere.
Yeah. I completely agree, and it was a great job. So, and a plus to Bob Shaw. Now, why don't we pass and talk about the music, the soundtrack? Because I found it like really interesting song, like choices, like really interesting soundtrack, and I really like these slow motion scenes with like this classical music on the background. Just like music that I don't know, that you wouldn't expect, but it actually added a lot to the movie. Like, I don't know, like I thought it was like really interesting.
The soundtrack was very interesting to me as well, but to me it sounds like it's a film made by a young person full of energy, and it's full of punk rock songs. Like Martin Scorsese made this film when he was 70, but everything about it screams energy and frenetic, right? So he uses the Foo Fighters, he uses a rendition of Mrs. Robinson, but it's a punk rock version.
FBI! Everybody sit down, put your hands where they can be seen, and shut up!
Just like the soundtrack has energy, also the editing is so fast and so abrupt. Thelma Schumacher is a legendary editor, and she's always been a collaborator with Martin Scorsese. Her editing is very fast-paced, and in the style of Thelma, sometimes it has jump cuts, sometimes the linear editing is a little bit off, but it really adds to the psyche of Jordan Belfort. Like he's out of his mind, he's drugged all the time. So the editing, I think, was really, really great to represent that.
I think it's important to say that every department, every element helps build a movie, and this was a really well made movie. You can really tell.
Yeah, and I also enjoy the editing of that scene when he's trying to save Donnie. They're both drugged on
Yeah.
they are both drugged on Quaalude.
Yeah.
And it intercuts from the cartoon of Popeye
Yeah.
to him
Yeah.
on the floor snorting cocaine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just genius and really funny.
Yeah, I really like that scene too. I was like, all the time I was like, what's going on? What's happening? I really like that other scene when they're like on the airplane, and they're also like on drugs. And then suddenly, like, it's the morning and he's tied with like a seatbelt on. And he's like, what happened? And the guy is like, Donnie is like, oh, well, the captain tied you because you were like rolling on the floor. And then you get like this flashback of like him humping at one of the
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
I agree. The editing choices were very interesting. And we also need to talk about the cinematography. What did you think of Rodrigo Prieto's work?
you start Alfonso. You first.
All right.
So why don't you tell us who is Rodrigo Prieto? No, that sounds
Prieto. So tell me, who is this Rodrigo Prieto?
So why don't you tell us who is Rodrigo Prieto? Prieto.
Yeah, he's a Mexican cinematographer. He has collaborated with Scorsese before. They worked on the film Silence, which is about religion and priests. And he was also the cinematographer for Brokeback Mountain. I think he got a nomination for an Academy Award for that film. And his cinematography on this film, I think, was great. I mean, I've been repeating that with every department, but I just think that this movie is a masterpiece. And the cinematography is not, it's not quite naturalistic. It's definitely stylized. There's some backlight in a lot of shots, and it just looks very lush, very sharp, and very beautiful. And the camera movements, as we mentioned with the editing choices, it's very fast, very frenetic, full of energy. Like as I mentioned earlier, also, this movie just screams young, energetic person to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there like a specific shot or a specific scene that stood out to you?
When he starts saying, okay, I'm gonna train you and I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna say and how to speak. And I was amazed by that. Like that was for me amazing, well, like super well like scripted. And that scene in specifically that one, when he's like, okay, like why don't we start with like $5,000, and then he says like, okay, what about 8,000, and then he says like, okay, let's go 10,000, and I was like, just shocking to me.
Yeah, that was a great scene, and I agree with what you said about like him teaching that sales script to all of his salesmen, and that scene where they cut from salesman to salesman, and everybody is repeating their name and everybody's repeating the script that Jordan taught them. That's really cool.
Also, something that I want to mention, and I'm like just gonna go like of the theme. I really like when like Leonardo was like narrating the story, and then he would just like suddenly look at the camera, and he would just like starting saying like, oh yeah, like I use like this many drugs and blah blah blah, but like he would just like look directly at the camera, and I thought like that was, I really like those scenes. What do you think?
Yeah, the narration was it made me think that Jordan Belfort was watching the movie with me, like the way he addresses the audience all the time. Like even in one of the first shots when we see the white Ferrari, and he's like, no, my Ferrari was red, like in Miami Vice or something like that.
Yeah.
Or in several scenes, he talks directly to the audience. It's not like an internal monologue from the character, or it's not like a common narration. It's really funny the way he addresses us.
What do you think about the themes of the movie?
Well, I think it has a lot to say about greed and about excess. It's just 3 hours of excess, right? We watch him being excessive with drugs, with money, with women, with everything. He's such an excessive character. And I think it's just a representation of the sign of the times. I don't think it's criticizing it, and I don't think it's glorifying it. I've read some reviews, and some friends that I have think that they're glorifying greed and that they're glorifying excess. But to me, it's just a sign of the times. To me, it's the 21st century. And I think that is represented in several parts of the film, like the way all his coworkers respect him, even if he is like super greedy, or the final shot when we see him like teaching sales to a theater full of people and they all want to be like him. So I think it just represents the sign of the times. I don't think it's criticizing it or glorifying it. And I think it also has something really interesting to say about like who becomes rich and who doesn't. Like the FBI character mentions that he doesn't get paid well enough. Like every day after work he gets on the subway and he's sweaty at the subway. And in the final shot of the film, in the final scene, we see him in the subway, and we see him very down in the dumps. He looks very defeated. Like he pursued Jordan Belfort for years. He did an amazing job, and in the end, he's still riding the subway, and Jordan Belfort is still rich, and he's still. So, I think that's something that the movie had to say, and some people interpret Jordan as this hero. I also have a lot of friends who want to be like the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
But personally, I saw him as an antagonist, like a very funny, powerful antagonist, but definitely something not good with society. And what about you? What did you think of the overall themes of the film?
Yeah, like I thought it like like he was really good at speaking and at convincing people, and I thought it almost as a as a dictatorship and as a manipulation of masses. And I think I also like kind of related that like like he was super rich and he had like a lot of money and he could buy like anything and like just anything he wanted and pay people to do stuff. And I think it's like really interesting, right? Because like this thing like with GameStop happened like a couple of months ago, and these like rich wealthy people were like losing a lot of money, and like then I think they paid off like their to like they also like manipulated this site like Robinhood to like shut down for a moment. And I just like thought it was interesting, like we still see like just rich people have like control over like whatever they want. And he was supposed to be in jail for 4 years, I think, and he ended up being there for like less than 2 or
Yeah.
something. Like you said, like he still has money and he still is doing like he's still super rich and like giving like speeches and selling books, so that for me is just what I saw in the movie, and like what we keep seeing like nowadays. And how like these rich people like they have control over everything just because they have more power, like more money.
Yeah, like basically if you are rich, you have impunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really funny that shot where the judge is sentencing him and the judge tells him, okay, so $10 million bail.
Mm-hmm.
And he just stands there in disbelief, like, is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Like he
Yeah.
can't believe that after getting hundreds of millions of dollars
Mm-hmm.
through fraud and through corruption,
Mm-hmm.
he just has to pay $10 million.
Yeah.
And yeah, it seems to be very unfair. I also thought of the short squeeze with GameStop. And exactly, it's like the greed of our times, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
people just want to be rich
Yeah.
instantly. They want to become rich by doing nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what he preached.
So we have a very, very unique way of rating movies, right, Alfonso?
That's right.
Okay, so we have 4 kinds of popcorn in the movie theater, at least in Mexico. So we have small popcorn, medium, big, and we have to take. That is just like this huge box of popcorn that you can take home, literally, because it's too much. So we're gonna rate this movie by popcorn. So let me just explain to you all how is this rating gonna work. So if you give a movie small popcorn, that means that's from 1 to 3, and we can like specify, okay, it's like 9 for me. For 4 to 5, we have medium popcorn. 6 to 8, big or large popcorn, and 9 and 10 is to take. Okay, so knowing that, how would you rate this movie, Alfonso?
It's an incredible film, and I give it a rating of 9 out of 10, which is popcorn to go.
Okay, good. I would give this movie, I'm gonna give it an 8, which is large popcorn, which is still good. It's good. 8 is good, but I wouldn't want to take this home. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, we're gonna be rating movies each week. So each Friday we're gonna have a new video with a completely new movie. And if you want us to rate a movie that you really like and we haven't seen, or we have seen but you would really like to have our opinion, write it in the comments below. But for now, it's Alfonso's turn to pick a movie to watch. So Alfonso, what's the movie that you choose?
Next week, we will watch Inherent Vice, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Okay, I've never seen it. Okay, so this was a great first video. Thanks all of you for watching. Thanks, Alfonso, for sharing your amazing knowledge. I really enjoyed hearing your opinion about movies. You're very experienced. If you like this video, click the like button, share it with friends and family, and don't forget to click the subscribe button on my channel. And I'm also gonna leave you Alfonso's channel in the description below, so you can go check his really cool short that has over 900 views. Yeah! This is everything for today. Thank you, Alfonso.
Thank you, Danny. This was really fun, and I will see you all next week.
Okay, perfect. See you next week, everyone. Bye.